Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Pesachim Samach Vav. In the Mishnah we learned that a Korban Pesach can be brought even on Shabbos. So if Yudal ben Nisan falls out on Shabbos, we bring the Korban despite the fact that it entails a malacha of Shchita. The Gemara today will teach us the reason, the makar of this halacha. The Gemara begins 10 lines from the top of the Amud on Samach Vav Amud Aleph. Tanu Rabbanon, halacha zu, this very halacha that a Korban Pesach is Zeicha Shabbos, nis'alma mi b'nei Besera. B'nei Besera were Nesim, and they forgot, they didn't know this halacha, whether or not a Korban Pesach is Zeicha Shabbos. So what happened? Pam achas, there was once a time that Chol Arba Asar Lies B'Shabbos, the 14th day of Nisan fell out on Shabbos. Shachachu, they forgot, V'lo Yodu, and did not know in Pesach Deiches Shabbos im Lav, whether or not Korban Pesach is Deiches Shabbos. Omru, they announced, Klum Yesh Adam Sheyodeya. Is there anybody out there that knows, that is aware of this halacha in Pesach Deiches Shabbos im Lav, whether or not Pesach is Deiches Shabbos? Omru Lahem. So others responded, and they said, yeah, actually, Adam Echad Yesh. There's a person, a very chashav person, Sha'olam Bavel, that came up from Bavel, the Hillel Habavli Shemai. He's called Hillel Habavli. This is our Hillel, who is the Nasi of Klal Yisrael. Sheshimesh Shnei Gedolei Hador, who is Meshamesh, two great people. He learned by them. Shmaya V'Aftali, V'Yodeya. And as a result of him associating so closely with Shmaya and Aftalion, he actually knows this halach, Yedeya, in Pesach Deiches HaShabbos Imlav, whether or not Pesach is Deiches Shabbos. Sholchu v'karloi. So they went and they called him over. Omer loy, and they asked him, Klumata Yedeya? In a Pesach Deiches HaShabbos Imlav, do you know whether or not Pesach is Deiches Shabbos? Omer lem. So this is what he responded. V'chi Pesach echad yesh lanu b'shana shedeiches HaShabbos. You're asking this question, do we only have one Pesach, one example of a Pesach throughout the year, which is Zeicha Shabbos? That you ask this question? V'aloi harbe yoser mimosayim Pesachim yesh lanu b'shana shedeiches HaShabbos. We actually have more than 200 examples of a Pesach which is Zeicha Shabbos. So why are you even asking? What did he mean by this? Let's take a look at Rashi. Rashi here is 10 lines from the top. Omer lan Hillel, v'chi Pesach echad yesh lanu, shedeiches HaShabbos, v'alo yoser memesayim Pesachim yesh lanu, shedeiches HaShabbos. K'loima, this is what he meant to say. We have 200 examples of karbanos which are deiches Shabbos. Yoser memesayim karbanos yesh, shedeiches Shabbos, b'shana, throughout the year. Why? Chamishim Shabbos Hashana. Throughout the 50 Shabbos of the year, b'chol Shabbos v'Shabbos, arba kvasim. We have 4 kvasim that are brought on a Shabbos. Shnaim l'tmidim, u'shnaim musafim. 2 are tamid, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 2 from musaf. Hari Mosayim gives you a total of 200. Levad Shabbos Shabbos Pesach. This is aside from the Shabbos which falls out during Pesach, B'sech Chag, and during Sukkot. Shekreven ben musaf hayoyim, where you have the additional musafim of the Yom Tov. Shivas Tlam b'Pesach, v'arba'asa l'Chag. So we find a precedent. You yourself certainly know that there are many, many karbanis. He referred to them as 200 Pesachim. He meant to say many karbanis out there that are certainly brought on Shabbos without any compunction, of course. Karbanis which are time sensitive are meant to be Deiches Shabbos. Amr Loi, so they told him, fine, the Tamid, the Musaf is Deiches Shabbos, but how would you know to apply this to the Korban Pesach, which is Deiches Shabbos? Amr Loi menayin lecha. So they asked him, how do you know? Continues the Gemara. Amr Loi menayin lecha, Amr lahem. So he responded to them, because we have a similarity. We apply Gzeira Shava. Nemar Mayad Pesach. We find that the Torah employs the term Mayadoi in the context of the Korban Pesach. It says V'yasu v'nei Yisrael es Pesach b'Mayadoi. V'ne'amar moyada b'tamid. And likewise, by tamid, the Torah uses this term. Pasas Tzaves b'nei Yisrael, etc. And it says, Tishmuru lahakri b'moyadoi. So we have the word b'moyadoi by tamid, and we derive with Gzeira Shava. Ma moyadoi ha'amar b'tamid. Just as tamid, which has the word moyadoi, doiches HaShabbos. How do we know that tamid is doiches Shabbos? Soon the Gemara will tell us that as well. But that's a given at this point. Af moyadoi ha'amar b'Pesach. Likewise, Korban Pesach, which has the word moyadoi, doiches HaShabbos. So from this Gzeira Shava, we learn that just as tamid is doiches Shabbos, Pesach is doiches Shabbos. V'oid, additionally, kal v'chomer. We can apply a kal v'chomer. Kal v'chomer hu. Uma tamid she'enon nishkaris. Certainly, tamid, despite the fact that there's no karis involved, if they negate to be makar korban tamid, it doesn't generate karis. Still in all, doiches HaShabbos. Despite the fact that tamid doesn't have karis, it allows Tchiyah of Shabbos, Pesach Shanish Karis, certainly Korban Pesach, which generates Karis. If one neglects to bring the Korban, it results in Einish Karis. Eino Din Sh'Doiches HaShabbos, certainly it justifies Doiches Shabbos. So you actually have two separate sources. The Korban Pesach is Doiches Shabbos. Number one, the Gzeira Shava from Tamid, just as Tamid is Doiches, Pesach is Doiches. Number two, by applying a Kal V'chomer. We find Tamid, despite the fact it doesn't have the Karis element, is Doiches Shabbos. Certainly Pesach, which has Karis, is Doiches Shabbos. The Bnei Metzira, hearing this, very impressed by his chachma, by his knowledge, and they abdicated their position. Could you imagine? They gave up their nesius. Miyad, immediately, Hishivu B'Rosh, they placed them at the front, Uminu Nasi Aleim, and they pointed him as a Nasi on them. They gave up their position. Because they saw that he was a bigger chacham. And now that he was appointed nasi, he sat throughout the rest of the day, and he was derish the halachos, like he nasi does. What was he being derish? And then he turned to them and he began giving them musar, taunting them. He began taunting them with words. What brought this about? What was Goyim? That I will come up from Bavel, and I will turn into the Nasi over you. Why do you have to give up your position? What was the Goyim? Atzlus. It's none other than the laziness, which is the culprit. Your laziness. They failed to learn from the Gdolei Adar, and therefore you were missing this knowledge. So he gave them Musar. The person is meant to invest great effort to attain Torah. So this concludes the first phase of the story. They wanted to know the halacha. If Pesach is Doiches Shabbos, they turned to Hillel, and he responded in the affirmative. Omer Loi, they turned to him with another question. Rebbe, Shochach v'leihevi saken v'Shabbos ma'u. What if this fellow forgot to bring a knife to the Beis Hamikdash? He forgot to prepare his knife from before Shabbos. Can he transport it on Shabbos? Omer Len, this time he didn't know. He responded, Halacha zu shomati v'shachachti. Actually, I once knew this halacha. I heard it, but I forgot. Ella, rather, this is how we should proceed. If we don't know, follow the crowd. Hanach len l'Yisrael. Leave Klal Yisrael, meaning let's rely on Klal Yisrael and observe their behavior tomorrow. Im ein neviim heim. If they're not actually neviim, bnei neviim heim. They're close to neviim. They're potential neviim. They have the characteristics of neviim, and let's just rely on them. Let's see what they do. Whatever Klal Yisrael does, that's the true way to do things. Hashem will give them Siyata D'Shmaya to do things according to halacha. We assume what they do is through Nesira, through Kabbalah from their parents, etc. Let's just see what Klal Yisrael does tomorrow. L'machar, so the following day, which was Shabbos, they observed. And what did they see? Everybody was coming to the Beis Hamikdash, and some individuals apparently forgot to bring their knives. And they proceeded as follows. Misha Pischei Tola, this fellow who had a lamb as korban, he would insert the knife into the wool of the korban and transport it in that manner to the Beis Hamikdash. So although using an animal for malacha is asur, but this was in a backhanded way, derech shinoi, in a non-conventional manner. And since this was for the sake of the mitzvah, apparently it was mutter. Misha Pischak Di, whoever had a goat, toichvei ben kara, there's no wool there, so he would insert the knife between its horns. Ruah Maaseh, now that Hillel saw this activity, v'niskar halacha, he reminded us of the halacha, v'amar, indeed he said, kach mikublani mipnei Shmai v'Avtalyon. This is exactly what I heard from my Rebbeim, Shmai and Avtalyon, that this is the way to proceed if one forgets to prepare his knife before Shabbos. This concludes the second phase of the story. They asked him regarding bringing a knife, and he responded, indeed, that the way everybody is doing it is the proper way. Omar Mar, let's go back to the first question. Can we bring a Pesach on Shabbos? And he responded, yeah, certainly. And it was twofold. Firstly, there was a Gzeira Shava, and then a Kal V'chomer. So he began by saying, Nemar me'adu bePesach. We find the word me'adu bePesach. Nemar me'adu beTamid. We find the same word by Tamid. Ma me'adu amar beTamid. Doichas Shabbos. Just as Tamid, which has me'adu, is Doichas Shabbos. Af me'adu amar bePesach. Same thing, Pesach, that has the word me'adu. Doichas Shabbos will be Doichas Shabbos because we apply Gzeira Shava. Okay, so Pesach is learned from Tamid. But how do you know that Tamid is Doichas Shabbos? V'Tamid Gufei. Minol and Doichas Shabbos. How do you know that Tamid is Doichas Shabbos? Is it because the Torah uses the word b'mayadei in the context of the korban Tamid, which indicates that it has a designated time, and regardless of whether it's Monday or Shabbos, you bring that Tamid. It's time sensitive. Is that the basis for your contention that Tamid is Doichas Shabbos? If that is so, then Pesach Nami. You have the word Mayadei by Pesach as well. It's a Pesach by Mayadei. If Mayadei indicates Shabbos, then Pesach has its own source. Mayadei indicates Shabbos. What do you have to apply and connect it to Tamid? Apparently the word Mayadei on its own will not provide us with this halacha. It doesn't necessarily allude to Shabbos. Hachanami. So here as well by Tamid, Mayadei lemashmalei. Mayadei doesn't teach us anything regarding Shabbos. So how do you know Tamid is Doichas Shabbos? Rather, this is the source for Tamid being Doichas Shabbos. The pasuk says, Oila Shabbos v'Shabbat. He meant to bring the Tamid on Shabbos. Al Oilas HaTamid. In addition to the Oilas HaTamid, what do you see? Mechlal, apparently, Oila the Tamid Kreva b'Shabbos. The Oila of the Tamid will be brought even on Shabbos. So this pasuk is a source that a Tamid will be brought even on Shabbos. And we take this halacha and we apply it further to korban Pesach using the Gzeira Shava. Amamar, so we learned. V'oid, in addition to the Gzeira Shava, we have another source. Kal V'chomer. Uma Tamid she'eino nishkaros. Because since we find that the Tamid, despite the fact that there's no einish karos there, Doichas HaShabbos, it has the ability to Doichas Shabbos. Certainly Pesach shanish karos, which has the karos element within it, certainly is Doichas Shabbos. This was the alternate source. Ikal Mifrach. Says the more you can refute this Kal V'chomer. Perhaps, you know why Tamid is Doichas Shabbos? Because it has chumras. It has advantages over Pesach. Mala Tamid, Shekain Tadr, it's a constant, it's a daily korban, as opposed to Pesach, which is once a year. V'kol, Tamid is completely brought on the Mizbeach, as opposed to Pesach, which is eaten by the owner. So how could you compare the two things? Answers the Gemara. Actually, you're right. Kal V'chomer amalu b'reish. Initially, Hillel presented a Kal V'chomer. U'perchu, and they responded by applying this percha. You can't compare Pesach to Tamid, which has chumras. So they negated the Kal V'chomer. Now he needed to find another source. V'hadar amalu Gzeira Shava. So he responded by giving them the Gzeira Shava. And we know that a person cannot refute a Gzeira Shava. It's an absolute. So this was the makar that Pesach is Doichas Shabbos. We compare Pesach to Tamid using the word b'mayad. Says the Gemara, but if he had a Gzeira Shava, why did he need a Kal V'chomer? The Gomer Gzeir Shava, once he learned from his Rebbeim that he meant to use these words for Gzeir Shava, which is an absolute limit. It's as though the pasuk is actually telling it to you. Kavachomer Lamali, why do you have to apply Kavachomer, which is something that a person generates on his own? It's his own svar. If you have the Gzeir Shava, which is a more solid makar, why even bother with the Kavachomer? Says the way right. He really had a Gzeir Shava. He didn't need a Kavachomer. He was simply speaking on their terms. He said like this: Ella rather lididhu ka'amar luhu. He was simply speaking in their language. They were asking him, is it Pesach, is it Shabbos? We don't know, we're unaware of the halacha. And he responded like this: I'm not understanding why you wouldn't know this halacha. I understand why you wouldn't know the Gzeir Shava, because perhaps you weren't makabel it. You didn't learn it from your Rebbeim. Gzeir Shava cannot be initiated. It has to be accepted from your Rebbe, who accepted it from his Rebbe, from Moshe Rabbeinu, from Hashem B'Sinai, that these words are meant to be used for Gzeir Shava. Fine, so you weren't makabel, so that explains why you didn't know the Gzeir Shava. The Inadam Don Gzeir Shava Ma'asma, a person doesn't have the ability to generate a Gzeir Shava on his own. Fine. So I understand why you wouldn't know the Gzeir Shava. However, Ella Kavachomer. What happened to a Kavachomer? The Adam Don Me'atzma. A person is fully allowed to generate his own Kavachomer. You should have applied a Kavachomer. You should have figured it out on your own. Why don't you know this halach? And they responded, Amrulay, actually, Kavachomer Prichu. It's a refuted Kavachomer. As the Gemara says, because you can't necessarily learn Pesach from Tamid, which has the additional chumrah that it's kolel, it's tadir. So they were justifying their lack of knowledge. You're suggesting that we should have applied a Kavachomer? It's a Kavachomer Pricha. It's not a substantiated Kavachomer. And regarding Gzeir Shava, well, that we weren't makabel. That explains our ignorance. But truthfully, the Gzeir Shava on its own provides sufficient source for this halach. Let's take a look at Rashi inside, 13 lines from the bottom. So the Gemara asked, why did he have to even have a Kavachomer? Once Hillel was makabel from his Rebbe, Shegzeir Shava zu lekach ba. That this Gzeir Shava is meant to be applied for this halacha. The Kaimlan, because we know, Ein Adam Gdonen Gzeir Shava Ma'asma. A person cannot initiate his own Gzeir Shava. Elim Kein Eskabla Uba Mesinai. Unless it was accepted all the way from Sinai. Why? The Dilma Krol Milsachriti Yasa. How do you know that the pasuk is coming for this purpose? The Kiva Dehu Kach Kibel. Now once he was makabel, that these words are intended for this point. It says, oh, the pasuk is clearly speaking about it. So we have a pasuk about it. If that's the case, why does he have to resort to a Kavachomer, which is not as powerful as the Gzeir Shava? It's something which a person on his own initiates. The Gemara responded, you're right. He didn't need more than a Gzeir Shava. But the give and take here was simply on their terms. This is what he meant to say. He's trying to explore why don't they know this halacha. Fine, the Gzeir Shava, you don't know. You weren't makabel it. You didn't accept Mirab B'Seichem. Gzeir Shava, Tzricha Rav. Gzeir Shava needs a Rebbe. They know them done Gzeir Shava Ma'atzma. Elam came Lamdam Rabbi. That explains why you don't have the Gzeir Shava. Ela Kavachomer, which a person can generate. What happened to the Kavachomer? Why couldn't you figure this out on your own? Learn Pesach from Tamid with the Kavachomer. On that they responded, Kavachomer, the Ispe, Lei Daininan. You can't apply this Kavachomer. The Prichu. It's a refutable Kavachomer. Kedamron, as we said, Shekein Tadir, because Tamid actually stands higher than Pesach. It's a constant carbon. It's completely brought on the Mizbeach. And that explained why we could not use a Kavachomer to learn that Pesach is a Shabbos. We needed you to come inform us that there is a Gzeir Shava to be applied, which you makabel from your Rebbe. So in conclusion, there were two things asked by the Bnei Beseira from Hillel. Number one, is Pesach Leicha Shabbos? He responded, certainly yes. And it's based on a Gzeir Shava. Just as Tamid is Leicha Shabbos. We learn it from a pasuk. Oila Shabbos v'Shabbatai al Oila Satamid, indicating that Oila Satamid is brought even on Shabbos. We apply that to Pesach as well, using the Gzeir Shava of Moyadoi Moyad. Regarding the second question, the person neglected to prepare a knife before Shabbos. How is he meant to proceed? They observed the crowd, everybody did a derech shinoi, and he reminded himself of the halacha. Indeed, this is the halacha that was makabel shmai v'avtalya. Continues the Gemara, referring to the minhag that they observed that everybody was carrying their knives, using their animals. Omar lemachar, the next day, misha pischay tala. This fellow who had a tala for his carbon, teichav leibit simrai, he inserted the knife into the wool. Gdi, if it was a goat, teichav leibin karav, he inserted it between the horns. Says the Gemara, but we have a couple of concerns here. How can they do this? Isn't he doing avodah with a carbon? Rashi brings a pasuk like Savad the B'char. One cannot use a carbon for his own personal benefit. It's me'ilah. So how can he go ahead and transport the knife with his carbon? Says the Gemara, because it actually was not yet a carbon. He was only magdish it in the Azar. Ki Hillel. He followed Hillel's precedent. The Sanya. Hillel. They said regarding Hillel, Miyamav, all his days, Lo yimal adam b'ilosei. Nobody ever committed the me'ilah by having anah from his carbon oil. You know why? Because it wasn't yet an oil until it got to the Beis HaMikdash. Elam aviyah chulin azar. He would bring it when it was still in its chulin state to the Azar. And over there, he would make it heged, umagdisha. And immediately, he'd lean on it, v'sheichta, and v'sheichet it. So it wouldn't leave much time for somebody to have anah, and it wouldn't bring to pitfall. Same thing here. They would bring the Korban Pesach on Shabbos to the Azara while it was still in its chulin state, and in the Azara they would be magdish the carbon. Interesting. Tosfos actually brings from the Yerushalmi the answer to the shaila. How can they go ahead and use their animal, their carbon, to transport the knife? The Yerushalmi says because this was avodah l'tzorech carbon. It wasn't for the owner's personal benefit. It was for the sake of the carbon. Therefore, there's no me'ilah here. Our Gemara responds by saying they will only magdish it in the Beis HaMikdash on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, how can they do that? Pesach b'Shabbos. How can a person turn this thing into a carbon Pesach on Shabbos? Vatnan, ein magdishin. What is that meant to be magdish on Yom Tov? Ve'ein marichin. Or to commit himself to bring the value of a person, erech pleni alai, ve'ein machrimin. This is another form of hegdish. Not meant to do that, because it appears like mekach hamemker, like he's engaged in transactions and business transactions. Ve'ein magbiin truma masers. Nor you meant to separate Truma Maser, Kol Elu B'Yom Tov Amru. All these were said regarding Yom Tov, Kal V'Chomer B'Shabbos, certainly on Shabbos, which is more strict than Yom Tov. So how can they make Hegdish on Shabbos? Ha Nemile B'Choyve She'en Kavod L'Enzman. Says the Gemara, this only applies to a choiv, a commitment which is not time sensitive. Yeah, so don't go make your oil on Shabbos for no reason. Aval B'Choyve She'Kavod L'Enzman. But Karbanos Choyve, which are time related, like a Korban Pesach, Magdishin. Even the Chacham allowed the Hegdish to be applied in this manner. Don't Rabbi Yehuda. Magdish Adam as Pesach b'Shabbos. If Erev Pesach falls on Shabbos, a person can't go ahead and be Magdish his carbon on Shabbos. V'chagigasa b'Yom Tov, or his carbon chagiga on Yom Tov. So in short, there was no concern of avodah b'kachim, because it wasn't yet a carbon until it got to the Azara. They were only Magdish it once it got to the Beis HaMikdash. This was allowed, despite the fact that it's Shabbos. Says there's one more concern. Mechamer means using an animal to carry a load for you on Shabbos. It's a separate malacha mechamer. How can they go ahead and have their animal carry for them on Shabbos? Mechamer kelachayad. It's an indirect form of mechamer. This is not the conventional way of an animal transporting a load. It's using his wool, etc., and therefore there's no malacha. Fine, says the Gemara. There's no malacha. Mechamek la'achayad nihi nami. Certainly, the isur deraisa leka. There's no isur deraisa. Isur derabanan me'ika. There's still isur derabanan. So how can they go ahead and do that? Says the Gemara, exactly this was the question. This was the equation presented by the Bnei Meseirah to Hillel. We want to know, how did the kaboymene? This is what they asked him. Davar sheyesh la'ashtem anatur. something which is really mutter minatur, such as this case of malacha klachayat, mecham klachayat. So minatur it's mutter, but v'davar shvus omed b'fanav. But we're faced with a shvus. The question is la'akre klachayat, to uproot that shvus, klachayat in an indirect manner, in a backhanded way. But malka mitzvah, when it's for the sake of mitzvah, my was halacha. So this was the equation that was presented. We have a derabban. It's klachayat, but it's for the sake of a mitzvah. Is this mutter or asa? This was their suffix. Omerlan, and he responded, halachas v'shamati v'shachachti. Actually, I heard this, but I forgot. Elah hanichulan Yisrael. Rather, follow Yisrael, rely on them. Im ein neviim hein, b'nei neviim hein, and whatever they do is something to be relied upon. Let's take a look at Rashi here, which is around 10, 11 lines from the top of the Amud. Rashi begins with mechamer. So how could one transport a knife on his animal? Isn't he committing mechamer? Explains Rashi. Mechamer leikori ela bebehema. It's applied to a case where a behema is carrying. Haniseis masri. V'umanhiga. He's leading an animal who's carrying a load for him. Kari le mechamer. That's called mechamer. Umuzar olav ve'rishon. The one Shabbos brings the makar why it's asur. So Gemara says, well, this wasn't a direct mechamer. It's not a conventional mechamer. Rather, it was klachayad. It was a backhanded, unusual way of doing it. Shein derech tole losis masi. Rashi says it's not a derech of a tole to carry a masi. Certainly not in this way of plucking it into the tzemer. And it's not also not Torah. What about Midrabanan? Says the Gemara, this was their question. This was the equation posed to Hillel. We have something which is sheyesh lahetem min haTorah. Kigon zeh she'ena mechamer gomer, ela kalachayat. It's only an indirect mechamer. Ve'en kan ela shvus. It's only a Drabanan. And Rashi adds a point. Because really we have a kasha. We learned yesterday that even an Issa Drabanan shvus can't necessarily be done for the sake of a mitzvah. It's only mutter, according to Rabbi Kiva, if it's something which is time sensitive, which could not have been done yesterday. But this knife, you could have brought it yesterday. So why was it mutter? So Rashi adds to answer this question. He says like this: shvus today, even this shvus here, lo yichamer kishar shvus, is not the same. It doesn't have the same chashivas and stringency as your standard shvus. Why? Here's a step down. The kol kla'achayad l'shchicha. Something done in a backhanded, indirect, unusual manner is not something which is common. So really, it's a step below your typical shvus. It's more lenient than your standard shvus. So that was the question. Could you go ahead and do this on Shabbos? Taisus actually says that the reason why there's no concern of the shvus being done on Shabbos, he says, he says, shvus behemtoi, kill mishvus atzmai. Because unlike the case in the Mishnah where the shvus is being done by the person himself, here it was his animal which was engaged in the shvus, and therefore, as it says, it's a step down, a step below your standard typical shvus. And therefore, they contemplated that perhaps it would be mutter, and since we're speaking about a mitzvah, let's continue Rashi. B'mokah mitzvah, k'agalno d'ma'akiv Pesach, since it's needed for the Pesach. What is Allah? And he responded, let's take a look what the crowd is going to do tomorrow. And indeed, it turns out that it was mutter. So conclusion, regarding the second question they asked him, which was a person forgot to prepare his knife, can he bring it on Shabbos? He said, let's take a look at what everybody's going to do. And indeed, they observed the people conducting themselves as follows: putting the knife into the animal's wool, etc. Derech shinoi, bringing it in that manner to Beis Hamikdash. Why isn't there a concern of avoid the bekachim? You're using the carbon. It wasn't yet a carbon because they only made it carbon once it got to the Beis Hamikdash. What about being magdash on Shabbos, which is asur? In this case, since it's time sensitive, it's chayves shekabula and zman. We learn from Rabbi Yehuda, it's mutter to be done even on Shabbos. What about the issue of mechamer, using your animal, even a chulin animal, cannot be used to carry a load? Gemara says it's klachayad, it's not the conventional manner of carrying loads, and since it's for the sake of a mitzvah, it was mutter. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Kol HaMesiyar, if one exhibits haughtiness, Im Chachamu, this fellow is a Chacham, Gaiva and Chachma are incompatible. Chachmasoi mistaleks memenu. His Chachma will leave him. Unlike Chachma pertaining to physical matters, worldly matters, scientific matters, that's compatible with bad midas. But the Chachma of Hashem, which is a purely spiritual entity, it's an absolute connection to Hashem, that only works when a person removes his barriers, his bad midas. But when a person exhibits Gaiva, even the Chachma which he already attained will leave him. Im Navihu, if he is a Navi, Nuvu'asai mistalekes memenu, due to the Gaiva, his Navius will leave him. How do we know this? Im Chachamu, Chachmasai mistalekes memenu. We know this from Hillel, from our story. We just learned that Hillel was appointed Nasi, and he began to taunt them. And he said, V'kamalu. Oh, and he said, well, why don't you know this halacha? It's only because of the laziness, you haven't really immersed yourself properly in Torah, you want Mishamesh, Ma'iv that's why you don't know. So apparently this was a slight expression of Gaiva. And what was the result of this? V'kamalu. The next time around, when they asked him the next question, he said, well, I don't know. Halacha zu shamati. Indeed, I actually learned this halacha v'shachachti and I forgot. So the result of this slight expression of Gaiva, he lost the chachma. Now what's fascinating is that Hillel Hazaken was the epitome of an anav. The Gemara Shabbos tells us that a person should strive to emulate the example of Hillel. We know that story where he was put to test and he was degraded and treated with disrespect by those two people who gambled, who's going to get Hillel angry. And the Gemara uses that as an example of the extreme humility of Hillel Hazaken. Apparently, on his level, this too was considered a slight expression of Gaiva, which resulted in him losing somewhat his Chachma. So that's how we know that Chachma leaves a person. Im Navihu, if this fellow who exhibited Gaiva is a Navi, Nuvu'asa mistalekes memenu, his Navuah will leave him. How do we know that? Midvar, from the Dvar HaNavi. T'chsiv, Chadlu Prazan BeYisrael. She expressed herself in a slightly condescending manner, in reference to the previous leaders of Klal Yisrael. She says, Klal Yisrael can no longer live in the open, unprotected cities. Chadlu Prazan BeYisrael, Chadlu Achakamte Dvara, Shakamte in BeYisrael, the Gomer, until Dvara was established as the leader in Klal Yisrael. So she presented herself in higher regard, in contrast to the previous leaders of Klal Yisrael. Uksiv, and as a result of that, we see that she was silenced from her Nevuah. Uri, Uri, Dvara, wake up, Dvara, Uri, Uri, Dabishir. So we see that temporarily her Nevuah left her. Rish Lakish Amar, called Adam Shekoyes. The same thing applies to Kas. If a person expresses anger, called Adam Shekoyes, Im Chachamu, Chachmasam mistalekes memenu. If he's a Chacham, his Chachma leaves him. Im Naviyu, Nuvu'asam mistalekes memenu. How do we know this? Im Chachamu, this fellow who exhibited anger is a Chacham, Chachmasam mistalekes memenu. He loses his Chachma, we know that. Mi Moshe, Tichsev. Vayiksef Moshe al Pkudei Chayil. When the army came back from their war with Midian, he expressed anger. Why did you leave the Nekevos alive? And as a result of that, he lost Chachma. He forgot the halacha, Uksiv. When they needed to know how to proceed with the Kalim that they got from the Goyim, it wasn't Moshe who instructed them. He forgot the halacha. Rather, it was Elazar. And he gave them very specific instructions on how to proceed with the Kalim, Hagala, how we extract the embedded non-kosher flavor in the Kalim. Now this halacha was taught to who? Zois Chukazatur Asher Tzipas Moshe. Was taught to Moshe, not to Elazar. Elazar learned it from Moshe. Still in all, who was needed here? Who had to teach them the halacha? Elazar. Apparently Moshe forgot. Machlal the Moshe eliminate was concealed from him as a result of his slight expression of anger. Im Navihu, the same thing if a person is a Navi and he gets angry, Nuvu'asam mistalekes memenu, he loses the Nevuah. How do we know that? Me Elisha, from Elisha Navi. The Chsiv, when he went out to Yehiram, he expressed irritation. He said, "Lule pnei shafat melech Yehuda ani noiseim abit elechav erechav agayim." Hashem is only expressing himself because Yeshafat is here, but not because of you, Yayoram. So he expressed anger and irritation. And what happened? Uksiv, that Elisha was silenced from his nevuah. Now, bring for me a musician in order to generate nevuah, to restore my nevuah. When the musician would play his instrument, and then nevuah descended on him. Omar Rabbi Moni Rapatish, Kol Shekois, a person gets angry, I feel personally all of Gedulim HaShamayim, even if he earned a place of high position, he was given a position of high status from Hashem, Moiridin Oisai, he loses it. Menolan, Me Eliyav. Eliyav was one of David HaMelech's brothers. And due to his anger, he lost favor by Hashem, he lost his status. Shenemar, Vayichar Af, Eliyav b'David. Eliyav got mad at David. Vayomer, Loma ze yoranta, why did you leave the flock? With whom did you leave the sheep there? You left the flock, just hefker. That's irresponsible. I know how bad you are, Kilaman, simply due to your curiosity. You wanted to go observe the war. You left the sheep unattended. So he expressed anger. What happened as a result? When Shmuel Hanavi went to anoint, to find the David HaMelech, to anoint him as king, so he took a look at all the brothers. He went from one to the other. And the last one was David. He didn't imagine that David HaMelech would be appointed. So he went from one to the next. Bekulu when it comes to all the other brothers, it says Hashem responded, no, Hashem didn't choose this one. Go to the next one. So he went from one to the other. So when it comes to the other brothers, there was no harsh expression here. Hashem didn't choose them, fine. But when it comes to Eliyav, don't take a look at his appearance. Al tabet el mareu vel gvoya kamasai, nor his tall features. Ki ma'astiu, because I negated him, I was moyas in him, he was repulsive to me. Miklal davarachim le'ad idna. The fact that it says ki ma'astiu indicates that it's a recent development. Apparently, initially, Michlal davarachim le'ad idna, up until this point, he found favor in Hashem's eyes. Hashem liked him. So he occupied a high position by Hashem. But due to his kas, he lost that status. So we see from here that kas will bring a person to lose his position and his high status that was granted him in Hashem. Okay, time for a brief chazar of today's daf. We began with the exchange between the Bnei Beseira and Hillel, who asked him two questions. Is Korban Pesach the Shabbos? And he answered very resolutely. He says, yeah. Just as Tamid is Zeicha Shabbos, the more it tells us because the pasuk says Al Oilas HaTamid, which indicates that a Tamid is brought on Shabbos. The same thing regarding Pesach, which is connected to Tamid using Exer Shava Mayada Mayada. Regarding the second question, can a person transport his knife on Pesach? He says, I forgot. The more says it's because he expressed himself with somewhat of a gava expression, and therefore he forgot the halacha that he himself learned. And he says, let's observe the crowd. And indeed, what do they see? That people were bringing their knives, transporting them in a kla'achar yad manner, derech shinoi, because it was for the sake of a mitzvah, and therefore was allowed. And the Gemara concluded that indeed, if a person expresses himself haughtily with gaiva, if he is a chacham, his chachma gets lost. We learn this from Hillel. If he's a navi, navius gets lost, as we see from Devorah. Same thing, a person expresses himself with kas. He loses his chachma. We see that from Moshe Rabbeinu, and he loses his nevuah, as we see from Elisha. In fact, from Eliyav, we see that even if Poskin Gdula, if they appointed a person to a position of greatness, due to kas, he can go ahead and lose that position as well. Be well and much hatzlach.